Ah, to be a kid again. Field trips, the ultimate break from the monotony of school. You get to walk around rather than sit at your desk for 8 hours, go see new cool things, chat with your friends, wander into dark, wet underground stormwater tunnels, get lost. We all remember those days, right? 71 schoolgirls from New York certainly do. The good news is all the girls are now accounted for and are safe, yet some of the circumstances and the news coverage around the story are simply bizarre, so I wanted to discuss it with you guys. So according to both local and national news agencies, the official story goes, last week on June 10th, 71 girls who attend the Torah Imaku school, which is an ultra-Orthodox Jewish all-girls private school that serves pre-K through 8th grade, and it's located in Monsey, New York, about 35 miles north of New York City. They go on a field trip to the nearby town of Nyack, about 10 miles east of Monsey. The field trip was to visit Nyack's Memorial Park, which is a pretty nice park. So according to the news, the girls were hanging out around the park, checking things out. Then they started following a creek, in which the only creek I can see here is this one right here. There does not appear to be other creeks in this park. And the creek led them into a tunnel that's right around here. If we drop our little squiggly person, this is the tunnel. Not the best view, but you can see the creek under the trees is running through. The park's over yada that way. This is the tunnel 71 girls decided to enter. So according to the mayor, the girls saw the culvert, they saw the cave, and they thought, let's go and take a look, see what's there. And they started walking and just kept walking and walking and walking. Now, it is a pretty freaking dark tunnel, so after walking for a while, they got disoriented and weren't able to find their way back. So starting here, they walked about half a mile all the way to Main Street, and they managed to find an exit behind this restaurant called Hudson House and popped out from a sewer grate right around here. There's a little alleyway here. Now, according to multiple of the news sources, the girls were able to actually find the exit sewer grate on their own behind a Hudson restaurant. Emergency response and police were called to the scene, who assisted with getting all the girls out and making sure everybody was accounted for. Some of the girls were treated for dehydration and exhaustion. One girl was sent to the hospital for abdominal pains, but no serious injuries. Which is great news. I'm really happy that all the girls were recovered safely. And as a red-blooded American, I'm now going to exercise my God-given right of asking some questions, because what do you mean there were chaperones there that allowed 71 girls under their supervision to enter into this and go so far down that they could not find their way back? I'm sorry, was the chaperone Pennywise? Perhaps they hired Dumb and Dumber to be the chaperones of this school field trip? No, I got it, guys. It must have been kids in a trench coat disguised as an adult. And you know, my boyfriend made the point, maybe the older kids were chaperoning the younger kids. But the school is 12 miles away from Memorial Park. There's no way these girls just walked there. And I checked, in New York, the age for driving is 16 years old. Again, this is a pre-K through 8th grade school, so adults definitely drove them there, and I have a hard time believing the school would be so incompetent to let a bunch of 14-year-olds chaperone a bunch of 12 to 13-year-olds during a school field trip couple towns over. Mind you, 2 out of the 3 examples within the definition of a chaperone on Google is an adult who supervises younger people, such as a teacher on a school trip or a parent monitoring a high school dance, and an adult who oversees and safeguards a child working in the entertainment industry. Almost certainly, the chaperones were adults, and going back to the news article, chaperones, more than one adult allowed this to happen. My most generous interpretation is maybe the 71 girls snuck away on their own, but then remember, the police weren't looking for the girls. In fact, emergency response didn't arrive on the scene until the girls trying trying to get out of the sewer grate caught someone's attention, and then they informed the police and emergency response. So at best, the chaperones didn't notice the kids under their supervision, all 71 of them, disappear long enough for these girls to walk half a mile in dark, wet underground tunnels. Chaperones did not call the police. Were the Pennywise chaperones playing catch at the park? Were they feeding the pigeons? But the phrasing of the article saying the 71 students and their chaperones were safely accounted for by the police makes me think that the chaperones went in with them. Which I guess if you're gonna take the first L of letting this happen in the first place, not letting the kids go in on their own and getting lost with them is the second best option here. And you know what? I've read like 8-9 articles regarding this incident at this point, and what is equally baffling to me is not a single journalist or news agency, local reporter that reported on the topic went and tried to interview the chaperones to be like, oh, how exactly did this come about? How exactly did this happen? How could you let this happen, adult chaperone? I mean, where is the curiosity? Isn't that what journalism is supposed to be about, getting to the bottom of things? How did 71 schoolgirls end up lost in a storm tunnel? Before we move on, if you enjoy digging through the public catacombs we call the internet, please subscribe. We're almost 10,000 strong in the Catacomb clan. Pretty darn exciting. And while we're on the topic of the poor quality of coverage of this incident, tell me why Rockland News, which Rockland is the county Monzy and Nyack, New York are in, is so adamant that these children are actually young adults. 71 young adults braved Nyack's underground tunnels found by emergency services. Before you ask, the most important part of the story is that all the young adults in the story are reportedly safe without injury. You go down a bit more, and again, a field trip to Memorial Park took an unexpected turn today after a group of young adults from a nearby school entered the Nyack Creek culvert. And 2 sentences later, they're out here quoting the mayor where he says approximately 70 teenagers, some young girls, some kids. At this point, I have to ask, are they just having AI write this? How can you say young adults, young adults, young adults, and then also be like teenagers, young girls, kids, school, school, school? Last time I checked, we had a pretty strict definition of what adult means, and it's someone over the age of 18, and a young adult is usually between the ages of 18 to 25 to 30, depending on how you look at it, but never someone under the age of 18. And apparently Cesar A. whatever, the reporter from Rockland News, was unable to just type Toras Imaku Monzy to see that it is a pre-K through 8th grade middle school. Since when are middle schoolers young adults? I mean, they had to blur the images of the girls' faces for a reason, because they're kids. But I don't want to dwell on it too much. I am a little bothered by how nonchalant of a tone the article takes, and in fact all the articles take. Not the first time in history that teenagers became explorers. Oh, this occurred in the 1990s before, although those teenagers were also able to exit the sewer system under their own power. They reportedly were in need of Febreze. I would like to stress that this was a very dangerous situation, and I'm very glad everyone got out of it unharmed, but that's based purely on luck. Let's see what the mayor has to say about it.
It was dangerous. They shouldn't have been doing it because it's cloudy now. We could have gotten rain this afternoon, and if it rains, this thing gets much more powerful, and the water could have really picked up on them.
Yeah, because that's the purpose of storm culverts. When rain happens, when a storm happens, all the water goes through the sewer grates in the entire town and funnels down into the storm culvert. And they could have been dealing with much higher, faster water flow unexpectedly. Panic, chaos. They could have trampled each other. People could have slipped and fallen, hit their head on the rocks. This could have been a very dangerous situation very easily. And this nonchalant treatment of the situation kind of gets on my nerves. And I'm not saying the chaperones need to go to jail, but I don't know, a little bit of questioning, a little bit of public shaming, I think would have been appropriate here. It would be nice if there is an acknowledgement of We don't care if it makes them sad, but these Pennywise ass chaperones are never allowed to chaperone children again. That brings me to a completely separate point of bafflement. You can't even have 10, let alone 71 schoolgirls agree on their favorite or hottest member of a boy band. You're gonna convince me that all 71 girls happily agree to go into this dark, wet tunnel? They really need to ask those chaperones some questions. Mind you, these are the tunnels that we're talking about. Here's the alleyway they came out of. Now, I want you to pay attention to their clothes and their shoes. Some of them have no socks on. They're all ankle shoes. This girl is wearing straight up slippers, ankle-high skirts. I'm actually surprised how pristine their clothes look, honestly, but like how did they want to go in those wet, dark ass tunnels with slippers on? I don't understand how did this happen? So again, those are the clothes and shoes they're wearing, and these are the tunnels. Another question, do they like bring flashlights with them? Because the only reason we can really see what's going on here is you can see that flashlight moving around. There's no built-in lights in these storm tunnels. I thought to myself, well, everyone has a cell phone these days, but then I remembered they are ultra-Orthodox according to some of the news articles. So I looked it up, and it looks like ultra-Orthodox Jews generally limit their cell phone use to kosher phones that lack internet access, web browsing, and cameras. Now, our NSA, FBI, CIA spyware has a really strong flashlight to go with the heavy use of cameras and high camera quality. Now, I'm not super convinced these types of non-camera focused phones are gonna have a strong enough flashlight to navigate through those dark tunnels. But I suppose that's neither here nor there. I'm sure one ultra-Orthodox Jewish community's traditions differ from another's. And I'm also not saying that kids would never want to go explore dark, wet tunnels. I actually remember being a kid and I absolutely would want to go and explore dark, wet tunnels. But that comes about usually in a circumstance when you got a group of friends, you're not at school. On your free time, you're getting onto some angsty teen activities. I just have a hard time embracing this narrative that 71 kids all agreed to do this, and none of the adults, none of the chaperones tried to stop them. The news is super cool with it, like, yeah, it's normal, kids do this, chaperones accommodate, not a big deal, don't think too much about it. It's all just really bizarre to me, that's all. So I wanted to share it with you guys. Now I want to give a quick shout out to my best friend. It was my birthday last week, and she got me a green screen, which is why my hands are no longer glitching in and out of this dimension. As always, if you enjoy digging through the public catacombs we call the internet, please subscribe, and I'll see you guys on the next one.